May, and this doesn't happen but every 60 years. This is a very significant phenomenon because, like I said, what is it they do? The Sigi ceremony. Yeah, they do the Sigi ceremony based on that conjunction of Saturn and Jupiter. So, and in a way that kind of represents what we saw up here on the movie, because Jupiter, remember he said the two have been made one. They were when the crystal cracked, they broke apart. And I think in one of the lessons we were talking about how Jupiter seemed to represent the white people. See, and we know Saturn represents the black people. Okay, so and if you'll notice on the movie, when the ancestors came and stood around the crystal, the scates, they melted into them. They melted back into them. So the two had been, when it was cracked, it's a part of them that came out of them. That was the evil part, and those, they had to bring those two back together. So if we're talking about bringing Jupiter, which we say represents the white people, back with the Saturn, see, that's a way of demonstrating that also, see. But you're also going to have, it's going to be 7 planets that line up in Taurus, You're going to have the moon, the sun, Mercury, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Who did I skip? I skipped somebody, didn't I? Yes. No, it's got to be inside of Saturn. Let me see. Jupiter is Mercury. It should be 7 of them. Moon, Sun, Jupiter. Oh, Venus. We forgot Venus. Venus. 7 of them. Yeah. Okay.
But isn't that something we want to expand on? Since we've already separated from them, we want to keep them separate.
Right, but this goes back, see, this even goes back to even like the Yakub theory. This is what was breathed out of us. All the it's like we're counterparts of each other. All that was good, was separated from all that is bad, okay? And then, as he said, the two have been brought back together in the fullness, in a whole. Remember how I've been telling you guys about how opposites, balancing opposites is creative energy. That's how you create. That's what makes you the creator, by balancing opposites, you see. So that makes you whole. When you're only dealing with one half, you're only dealing with half of a situation. You always have to bring the opposite together to get the full concept of what's going on here. See, so that is what that indicates. That's what that indicates. So if there's no more questions, on that, then we can start the lesson part, which is this. We're going to be working on the natal chart today. Okay. As I was saying, I think earlier, I really do want you guys to sign up for these workbooks that I'm setting up, because it's going to give you every tool that you need to start understanding these energies and start charting these energies, so that you can get an understanding and become a participant, in healing Mother Earth. Because that is our job, to heal Mother Earth. But we have to understand these energies before we can do that. So, in this workbook, I'm going to have everything you need to begin doing that understanding from your own personal perspective, because I am going to put a computer-generated chart, your chart in there. And I'm going to leave the transit area blank so that you can, in pencil, I'm going to have an ephemeris for the rest of the year in the back. So you can go look up and see what these planets are doing. You can position them on the chart and see how they are affecting you. And once you start charting this and you start seeing this and see how these energies are unfolding, then you'll know how to use this energy. I want you to really start setting up your altars. I want you to start doing your rituals. And this is only a step to get us to understand, because once we start understanding how to use those energies, how to direct those energies, you won't even need the rituals anymore. You won't even need the altars anymore, because it'll be a mind thing. You'll start adapting to using your mind to focusing that energy in the way that it needs to be focused in order to heal the earth. Right now we're not even nowhere there. We're not focused there. We're not even focused on that. We don't even know we have that ability. We don't even know we have that power. But this is the reason I want to give you the basics of astrology. I'm not trying to get all complicated. I'm not trying to get all technical. That's what I'm not here for. I'm just trying to give you a perspective on what it all means and what you can do, to be an active participant in this. So sign up for this workbook, because what's going to happen is that, like I said, I'm going to have the chart in there, and I'm going to have the ephemeris in there, so you can go back and then say if you see something, and everything else is going to be in there. On each planet, there's going to be a page on each planet describing that planet. What does it do? What does it influence? Each sign, information, with oppositions, describing everything that we cover on our agenda here. Is going to be describing those things, so that if you forget, if you don't understand, you can go back and refer to it and understand what it means. Say if you see, like I said, if you see Jupiter conjunction or just blocked with your sun, and that's something that's dealing personally with you, and you're like, well, what does Jupiter mean? You can go to the page of Jupiter, see what it means, and see what it's doing to you. Jupiter is the regenerator, the transformer. If you see Jupiter touching any part of you, then something's being torn down so that it can be rebuilt at a higher level. So that's the regenerator. So if you see Jupiter conjunct with your sun, that means you personally are being, there's a lot about you that's psychologically, that's being torn down to be rebuilt. Okay? Yes.
Pluto was the regenerator. I'm confused.
Didn't I say Pluto?
No,
You said Jupiter.
Jupiter, I'm sorry. Yeah, Jupiter. Yeah. Good. Good. You're catching it. I can teach it. Good. I should do that intentionally some more. See me really learn it. Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. So now we're going to start. Does everybody have an agenda?
This.
No. Okay.
Did you enjoy your dinner?
I need one more chart, Myra.
Wake up.
One more chart? Now, okay, we're in week 4. Week 4, natal or birth chart, okay? And you'll see number 1, I have date, place, and time of birth, okay? Those are the ingredients we need in order to do your chart. At the time of your birth, at the very time of your birth and where you were at, the certain planets were sitting in certain constellations, certain astrological constellations, and these energies, all of these energy rays converged together, came together to make you who you are at that exact time and moment and place of your birth. This is how they converge together Say, you know, like I said, Pluto was sitting here, Jupiter was sitting here, Saturn there, the sun there, and how those rays, what they were sending out, and that pinpoint where they came together at your time, at the moment and the place of your birth, is your inner, your inside. That's your spiritual being, because that is the energy rays that was stemming from the universe. Okay? And this is what we're working on now, your natal or your birth chart. You think the fingerprints have nothing on your natal chart, you know. Yes.
Oh, that's this. What if you were born, let's say, in Australia, on let's say let's say November 21st, and you moved to America? Did that change anything?
Yes. I mean, one of the things I haven't mentioned is we have what we call a progress chart. Okay, we're just going to do the basics. So, the progress chart is, in other words, it indicates. See, as you're being influenced, you know, as the planets circle your natal chart, influence you, and you grow from that. Okay, and what your progress chart shows is. Like if I was to pick today and look at my progress chart, it would show me where my signs would be sitting now as a result of my growth. Okay, that's what you call your progress chart. This this is how, you know, astrologers look into the future. You know, so what happens is that in figuring that progress chart, you do have to. You have to indicate if you've moved from the place that you were born at, because that does, you know, change the direction. Yeah, it does change. I mean, you can cast a chart to figure out what area of the country is better for my health. Yeah. 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 You can cast a chart to figure out what area is best for my career. Where am I more fortuitous at? It can show you all of that.
So you're saying that's progressive astrology?
Yes. Yes, that's why it's called a progress chart. Yes. Yes. See? So, yeah, everything counts. Everything counts. Now, and like I said, the first thing that you look at is the sun. Remember? Let's put my big circle back up here. And look at it like this. We are many planets, okay? We're just many planets. We're actually the form of Mother Earth, you know. Whatever it is that the Earth is receiving, whatever it is that the Earth is sending out, you know, we're the ones that, you know, bring that into form, okay? So we're like a mini planet. You know, remember when I showed you us in the womb and how the signs lined up in that circle? That circle, you know, we're like a little planet, okay? And so that's, you know, but that sacred circle. He's always talking about that sacred circle. So when you look at this circle, when you look at this chart, that's what you're looking at. You're really just looking at you as a planet, okay? Now, what happens is, you know, when we went over the houses, we have the planets represents what, you know, what is influencing you. We went through each planet and we told you what type of influence they bring you. They are what is influencing you. The signs is telling you how, the method. You know, when you look at what is influencing, you look at the sign to say, well, how do I deal with it? You know, how is it influencing me? So how do I deal with it? You know, and then the houses which is these little pies, represents where that's unfolding at in my life. Each one of these houses represents an area of you. Personal actions, first house. Values. And what do I value? Moral and materialistic. What are my values? Understanding, education, communication. The third house. Okay? Fourth house is the mother. You know, it's your heritage, your roots. You know, this is what takes you back to our ancestors. Okay? So if you're doing a ritual and you want to do something with the ancestors, you might want to check out that fourth house energy. You know, Cancer energy. Okay? And the fifth house is your house of creativity. It's where you have your children. It's where you recreate yourself. This is how the ego, it only means, the only way it can be used productively is an identifier as the children of the Creator. This represents children. It represents the creative energy. And we are supposed to be able to, it represents the ego. And we're supposed to be able to identify ourselves as the children of the Creator. Okay? Creative energy. The sixth house is your house of health and service. You know, how do I serve? Okay? Seventh house, again, is your house of partnership. And marriage is any one-on-one relationship is a partnership. Any one-on-one. Okay? Eighth house is your house of bonding. Joint resources. How do we come together in a way that's going to be a force to be reckoned with? That's the house Scorpio rules. You know, it's the house of intensity. Okay? Ninth house is the house of expansion. That's your house of spiritual wisdom. The 10th house is your house of the community, the public. And it's interesting. Now, you know we went over this before, but this is the house that Saturn, Capricorn, those energies rule. And it's the 10th house of the public. Now, we're looking at this as the community of the world. And we're looking at Capricorn as the administrator or the leader. And we're looking at that Saturn energy as our energy. What is that telling you? What is that telling you sitting up here in the house of the community of the world? We're the leaders. You know, we're the administrators. We're the ones that should be running the show here. Okay? And it's prophesied that we will be again as we had before. And that's coming up very soon.
Quick question. I have like Aries in the 10th house. What exactly?
Does that indicate?
Yeah.
You're a real warrior. And see, that's both. Those are both cardinal qualities. Aries is a cardinal sign, and the 10th house is a cardinal house. That shows that you're an extremely powerful leader, okay, in the community, okay, who is going to, will not shriek, will not shirk when it comes to getting in there and doing some real battling with that Aries energy. Did anybody see the news about the guy? Remember the last homework assignment when I was telling you to bring me an indication of Mars going into the sign of Aries? Well, did you see the brother in Pittsburgh? Okay? That was pure Aries energy. You know? Because it was coming through a black man. See? That Mars energy was coming through. He went to war. He got aggressive. Gunshots. And then he shot, he told, I don't know if they reported it on all, but he told one sister ran up on him with the gun. And he told, don't worry, sisters. I'm only shooting white folks. That's what he said. I'm only shooting white people. See? So here we're going again. So in his mind, I mean, other people might think, oh, how horrible. But in his mind, he was fighting for justice, right?
Oh, right on.
That's that full, the opposites. We're bringing those full principles together. The opposite of Aries is Libra, So if you're gonna fight, pull the whole concept together, bring its opposite, fight for justice. Libra. See? And so that was a pure, that you can't find hardly a more pure indication of that Mars, Aries energy, you know, than when that brother went and shot up those white folks.
You didn't have enough bullets if you had.
Yeah, that's the same thing. Yeah, me and my roommate was saying, we was like, you know, go to a, you know, a hockey match or something.
Notice he didn't shoot
You know, you're going to get just as much for 5 as, you know, 500. You might.
That's exactly
Good
right.
boy, if somebody see this tape,
And then
I'm
also-
gonna go ahead. You know, but seriously, that's what time it is. What time it is? Yes.
And I don't know if anybody saw the awards last night when Prince got up there and when he accepted a Soul Train award.
Yeah.
I mean, because you know, Prince is like,
Yes.
he remind me of Amethyst a lot. You know, he's deep anyway, but people play him.
Uh-huh.
And basically, when he got up there, he told them to remain standing. And he basically told them, because he said, you know, y'all look around. You know, and he kept on saying them. He kept on telling them that, you know. We're like, what did he say? We're gifted people, but we always like give thanks or show gratitude. You know, how we get up there and say, you know, pray, you know, thank God and stuff. But the main thing he was saying is that it's like our talents is the majority in this world, but we're a minority in their world.
That's right.
You know, telling them like, look, y'all better wake up.
Wake
But they kept on showing that. They kept on showing that part.
And then he
Because
said-
he got really deep.
Yeah, and then he said, look around. Are you the minority?
Yeah.
He said that?
Yeah.
Prince, I mean, and if you know what mine.
And right after on VH1, they had his concert on, and he was dropping more signs.
More, really?
Yeah.
I don't say I'm shocked, you know.
Yeah.
He was
I am. I'm surprised. I didn't know, you know, because, you know, so. But anyway, that is, that you cannot find no more pure example, and this is what time it is. And you're going to start seeing those things happening, and especially the more we move closer to Taurus, you know, because that's the physicalness of it, you know. And each time that, like I said, each time that sun activated a leg of that fixed cross, you know, started in Leo, then when it hit Scorpio, then we had the fire, the heat waves. It was heat waves. And we had it went into Scorpio. We had the floods in the waters and stuff. And then we had the Aquarius, the tornadoes, the air, representing the air. And now we're moving into Taurus. That's the last leg of that fixed cross. It's going to be, you know, some upheavals that has to do with the earth, the physical part. The physical part is really going to show itself at that time. And a demonstration as what this guy did when he went off and shot up all these 5 white people. Yes.
What's going on
Three.
in Mozambique with all the floods there? I understand some more.
Yeah, see, and that's another. Remember when we talked about those tornadoes that hit the black town and the white town? You know, there was a time when it was just hitting the white towns. There was a time when it was just hitting the white towns. And remember when I took you back and told you about the Olympics? When they did that big ritual at the Olympics, and they were really looking at me funny at my job at that time because I you know, being a star, I looked up and I saw a blue moon coming up, a blue moon that Friday, the night of the bomb. It was a blue moon, see. And so I'm like, ooh, they doing all this ritual to Zeus, you know. Zeus would be proud, you know, and they're flaunting it, and there's a blue moon coming up. You know, that's the universal energy. When you start looking at the planets and the stars and stuff, then you're looking at the universal energy. You're not looking at, you know, something they've created here. And I'm like, a blue moon? Sure enough, there was a bomb on the blue moon. See? And it killed one black lady. And everybody's like, well, why? Why? I'm like,
Supposed to be there.
you're not supposed to. This is not your party. Y'all, we have to get out of Dodge. This ship is going down. They only hanging on by what they can sap from us. You know? So you all up in here. And you were made an example of. It was shown That was a warning. Okay? We had time to heed that warning. But when this tornado hit, and then the same thing, when the tornadoes was going around hitting all the white people. As a matter of fact, I did a ritual that, a week after I did my ritual, and I was asking for restitution because I'm a part of the Black Wall Street, okay? That's my family, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I did a ritual, and a week later, when all them hundreds of tornadoes hit Tulsa, okay? And I did a ritual specifically for that. I didn't direct it how. I just said, I want some type of restitution. Next thing I know, boom. So this is the power we have. We really have this power. We just got to discover it and start utilizing it.
Right.
Exactly.
So anyway, the black town and the white town, that was a signal.
Yep.
That was a signal that time is up. No more.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter about the color now. If you haven't got your energy right, it's time for Mother Earth to take her sacred place. And all those that are bullshitting, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. So that's what, you asked me about the floods and everything. That's just, that's just another indicator that you're not doing right. I don't care if you are black. And see, I'm going to tell you something. The black people are going to get hit worse than the white folks. The white folks are not doing anything that they shouldn't be doing. They're trying to survive. They know their time is up. They know that they're about extinct. So they're doing what they need to try to stay around. We're the ones that's being stupid. We're the ones that's really screwing up things. So, where was I? Okay, the 10th house. That's how it goes, The 10th house is the house of the community. It's the house of career, your public, all of that. And then you have your 11th house. That's your house of friends, group activities, and your aspirations. Okay? And the 12th house is your house of the subconscious. That's where you get in touch with your subconscious. Okay? And like I said, and where your planets were sitting, now I'm going to use my chart because of course I know my chart. And, so first thing that you want to look at is your sun. Okay? 17 degrees. So, that means is that during the time of my birth, the sun was sitting 17 degrees in the constellation in the sign of Capricorn. Okay?
Do the degrees go this way or this way?
It's going this way. Okay? The planets, and see, when we start talking about the transits, see what happens is the transit is going to be circling you or this earth or this mini earth. The transit is going to be circling that, and as they circle, they're triggering those planets. Okay? Now the planets will be going this way, but remember the earth is also spinning this way. Okay? So it's like, and remember I told you that like your homework assignment, I told you that the houses are stationary, so this is going to represent, there's going to be, what happens is that the signs, as the earth circles, that's going to move the signs counter to the way the planets are going, okay? But the houses is the only thing that just stays the same, okay? This will always be your personal actions, this will always be your values, your partnership, that's always going to be like that, okay? Then the next thing you look at is your moon, and mine was sitting here, 9 degrees, but it was sitting in Gemini. Okay, this is Capricorn. Okay. And see, you start putting that together, okay? The next thing you want to look at is my rising sign. That's this line right here, remember? It's the rising sign. And what was rising, the energy that was rising over this horizon line at the time of my birth was Aries. So, and the number, it was 13 degrees on that line. That's what gives me a natural chart. Because once you find out what your rising sign is, then that's what goes in the first house. See, that's the energy that goes in the first house. And then you bring it on around. See, since mine was Aries, then the next sign, Taurus, would fall in my second house, Gemini, you know, but like I told you, there'll be some overlap. There'll be some overlap.
Okay,
Yes.
so if it was Capricorn, you would put Capricorn in Aries, in the first house. If your riser was, if it started in Capricorn, you would put Capricorn in number 1. That's what you're saying?
No. It depends on my rising sign. The time that I was born,
Okay.
at the time that I was born, what energy was rising over that horizon line?
You said Aries?
Aries.
Okay.
Okay, but my Capricorn sun, it was sitting in my 10th house.
Okay.
You understand? Really? You don't
No,
look
I
like-
wasn't looking at that. I was saying what you're trying to say. Until like if your rising sign was Gemini, then you would start at
Oh,
Gemini with
Absolutely.
as an Aries.
That's right. That's right. Gemini would go there, and then the sign that follows Gemini would go in the second house, and you would follow it on around like that. Okay, and that's why I say I have a natural chart, because Aries was what was
Really falls in
rising,
the first
and it
house.
falls in the first house. So that means
Okay.
all of the natural energies will fall in their natural houses.
You got into 12 house though, right?
What's that?
Aries. Shouldn't
No,
be
it's
in the
the-
first house and not.
What happened is that it was the Aries energy started here. By the time I was born, it was like 13 degrees. What's on this line, this horizon line, is what, when it crossed over this horizon line into my first house, the energy of Aries had already, like I told you, there's going to be some overlap, okay? So it was at 13 degrees when it crossed that horizon line, see? So it did start in my 12th house, but for me, it's only important to me as to where it was when it hit that line right there, okay? And that's why my moon is Gemini, but it's in the second house, see? Because Gemini normally rules this house here, but most of my Gemini energy is here, but it started over here. It did not cross over, the moon had not crossed over that line, but it was in the sign of Gemini before it crossed over the line, okay?
Question.
Uh-huh.
The higher the degree, does that mean the higher the energy or less the energy?
Well, all it is counting down, because remember I told you each planet, each sign goes 30 degrees before it passes into another sign. See, so all that's saying is that like here is 13, and somewhere along here it got up to 29, 30, and then it changed over. That's when it changed over into Aries. See,
Okay.
that's all that really indicates. Okay, and that'll come into play. The degrees will come into place when we start dealing with our transit planets, you see. Then we'll see, that'll help us to understand which planets are interacting with what, see. Because you have to be within 10 degrees. Within 10 degrees of each other, they're starting the communication process, see. But like within 3 degrees, they're really, that's what you call a conjunction. It's like we're walking hand in hand. We're doing the same thing. The energy is influencing you in the same way that you have inherently in you. See, so within 10 degrees they start communicating, and then when they get the same degrees, it's like the peak. You have to look at like the moon, the timing of the moon. You have the waxing, the full, and then the waning. That's just how those energies interact.
Yeah, can two houses have the same sign?
Mm-hmm. Like I told you, there'll be some overlap. That's what I meant by overlap.
Okay.
Uh-huh. But the house that's sitting on the cups Remember we talked about this in lesson, what, 2-3? The one that's the sign that's sitting on the house cups is the one that rules that house or flavors that house. So it's the stronger energy, it's the prevailing energy. But when you have some residual energy in there, that energy is, you just have access to that energy. It's something you can pull in, you know, and what you're trying to do, you can pull that in, you know. But the stronger energy is the one that's sitting on the line that rules the house, that flavors the houses. Right?
I have a quick question. Our homework assignment last week, or for this week, was to color in for the elements.
Right.
Now, are we supposed to go by the natural chart or by our chart?
Remember, I'm here, because this doesn't change.
Okay, good, good.
This is stationary.
Right, the houses.
The houses are stationary.
Okay.
And what I wanted you to do was to color in the energies of the houses,
Yeah, that's okay.
you know, as they represent. Okay.
You know, houses
Okay.
are
Like the first one should be red, right?
Right.
you know, Aries, yeah.
She was making sure.
I
Last week.
had to make sure too.
I did my homework.
Yeah, and did you see how it kept repeating?
Yeah, it
Yes,
is. Four.
It did.
Okay. And so that just means the first house, fire, which indicates passion, which indicates that this is a house for passion. This is your personal actions. This is when you take action. So that's passion. That's fire. That's why fire's in that house, because that's you know that is your passion. That, and like we said, this is conception. This is conception.
And then that is.
And then the second house is your physical, that's earth, that's Taurus, that's your physical body coming into form. The third house is Gemini, that's your mental capacity coming into form, and then you're born
Right.
through your fourth house.
Right. Okay.
You're born through your fourth house, see. So this here represents the passion. And remember we said Mars represents that sexual energy? You know, the fire, the heat, the passion for conception. Okay? And then, another thing, Mars is your most physical planet. Do you know what I mean by that? No. Okay. You know, all of this we're talking about energies, energy rays, right? This is like our spiritual self. You know, this is what's going on inside. You know, that's what the astrological chart do, is exposes what's going on inside. As far as the planet's influence goes, Mars represents the most physical of the planets. In other words, it dictates our physical body more than any of the other planets. Okay, but this is all still energy. But that, like whatever sign your Mars is sitting in, is the sign that will indicate what you physically look like. You understand? More so than your sun. See? Say if you've got a Aries Mars, then you probably got a masculine built, you know, or you're athletic, you know, you're very athletic. You know, wherever your Mars is sitting, that indicates your physical body. Okay?
How does the actual planet Mars play into that?
That's what I'm saying, Mars. That's what, you know. Oh, you mean which one, the transit or no, the planet Mars? Yeah, that indicates your most physical body.
Would that be? I understand what you're saying. Would that be an indication of why the Caucasian is always trying to find out what's going on Mars?
One of the reasons that is true is because, like I said, Mother Earth is trying to become a sacred planet. You know, there's other sacred planets like Venus and Saturn. They can't get there. They can't get to the sacred planets. They can't.
So they can get to Mars.
They can get to Mars.
They go where they can.
Mars is not a sacred planet. You know, so they can go there. They can't go where it's sacred at. See? So Mars is the closest they can be. Okay. Now, okay, then after, like I said, the rising Aries, we got the Capricorn Sun that fell in my 10th house. Okay. And we've got the Gemini Moon, which fell in my 2nd house. Okay. With my sun in the 10th house, it just means what I tell you, that where your sun is at is what you came in this life to focus on. Okay? You know, so I came in to focus on the public. You know, which is news to me because, you know, I was always very shy, you know, growing up and stuff. I never would have thought that the public would be, you know, but that just goes to show you, you know, but the public, that means that, and an administrator. Capricorn represents the administrator. So that means that I will be an administrator in the public domain. You understand? Because the house tells you where. And we're talking about the public, the career, the community, and we're talking about Capricorn, which is the administrator. So I will be administrating in public. You get that? See how you put those together?
So how did your son end up there? Sorry,
It's just where the sun was sitting
when
I was born. It was
Okay.
sitting 17 degrees in the sign of Capricorn, or the constellation of Capricorn. Okay, at the time of my birth. And then the same with the moon and the sign rising. Okay, and then after that would be Mercury. And my Mercury, since what sign?
Which one, Sagittarius?
Sagittarius.
All right. Somebody's learning here. Okay. And I'm gonna tell you something. Me and details, we don't mix. We do not mix. You know what I'm saying? I can be in a car and ride around in that car all day and get out and can't tell you what color it is. But ask me the meaning of life. What did you talk about? You know, what's the universe saying? Oh, I'm all there. You know what I'm saying? And one of the reasons for that is because my Mercury sits in its opposite. See, remember the opposite? Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury, third house. Opposite that is the ninth house. So your Mercury represents your conscious mind. Okay? So what's happening here, that represents the details. You know, the education, communication, bringing together all this information. Okay? And see, what happens is that you take that and you bring it into its opposite, Sagittarius, which is philosophical thinking. You know, it means it takes those information, those details, and take it into a spiritual wisdom. See, gives you the bigger picture. So that's why I lose the small details, because it's like spread it out. This is the house of expansion. You know, so I can look at the bigger picture, but it's hard for me to focus on those small details because it's like Mercury's in its fall. You know, it's in its opposite. It's in its opposite, so, you know, I can grab those details, but they automatically go into a bigger scheme. See?
I have a quick question.
Okay.
What causes Mercury to go into retrograde?
Well, yeah, well, not just Mercury.
Oh, it happens.
Mercury's not, yeah, Mercury is just more frequent with Mercury
exactly.
than any other planet. But they are. Mars is one. With just this past last year, around March, Mars went into retrograde, and that happens. That's an unusual thing. That happens like every 2.5 years, and that means we had a lot of friction. Because Mars is that aggression and that fighting, and what it was doing was exposing things. When it went into retrograde, it was exposing things that had to be exposed, which was causing a lot of fighting between people because, you know, that had to come out when Mars went into retrograde. They all go, but, you know, the sun and the moon though. But, yeah, but they don't, but Mercury goes more frequently. So when Mercury goes into retrograde, though, and it usually goes into retrograde for about 3 weeks or so. I think you said we're in one now, right? And that's the time when Mercury rules, like I said, communication. So things like and short-term transportation. So those are the times when your car will break down. You know, those are the times when your fax machine messes up, your answering machine don't take its messages, you know. And they say don't sign contracts because you'll have to redo it all. You'll have to redo it all. So that's another thing you can look at. When Mercury's in retrograde, try to stay away from finalizing things. That's the time to go back over things, to review things, you know. But don't finalize them until after that's out of retrograde. And what it means, and when it goes into retrograde, it doesn't actually happen, but you know, like we're always talking about the technical details of things. When planets go retrograde, it's like they stop. You know, like I told you, they're circling, 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 they're always moving. Well, it's like they stop, they slow down, they stop, and then they start going backwards. Okay? You know, and then they'll stop again, and they'll start moving back forward again. And they say when you're like I have what's that? My Uranus, which is here, is retrograde. Okay, so they say that when you look at a person's natal chart and they got more than 2 retros, give that person a second look because there's something special going on there. Because it's like you're being painted with the energy brush 3 times. When the planet moves forward, it stops, goes back, and then moves forth again. So there's extra emphasis being put on that area.
How many you say more than what?
More than 2 in your chart. It's like there's a special significance to that. Yes.
What does that retrograde sign look like? Does that look kind
This
of
is Nar. Like when you look in your ephemeris, and we're gonna get into this next week. I got, you know, some ephemeris. I got a March that I'm gonna bring and pass out. But when you look in your ephemeris, see if I can show you. See,
Kind of like a medicine.
yeah.
It looks like an RX.
Yeah, right here. Yeah. When you see that at the end of there, that means it's retro. Okay? And when you're looking at it at ephemeris, it'll be at the top of the column. You know, you'll see a little R in there. That means that planet is retrograde. And sometimes they'll shade it in. You know, that means that planet is in retrograde.
What if you don't have?
And see, remember what I said about opposites? You probably do. Remember what I said about opposite signs? Okay, when that means that when it's moving forth, it's in a physical rotation, okay? But when it's going retro, then what is it in?
Spiritual.
This is a spiritual rotation, see? It's in a spiritual rotation. So that just means special emphasis, special oomph is put on that area. So there's some significant reason why that is your energy brush is being painted 3 times in that area, because that's gonna, you know, you're really gonna have to step up to the plate in that area for whatever reason, you know. But you'll find out.
Wouldn't that also mean that you would need like more work with yourself for that? Because it's like going back. So would it be like trials?
Right. It actually is working more inside. You understand?
Because going back.
Right. It's spiritual. So that means that what's going on is being, you know, you're getting some internal. You're getting some internal lessons. Okay. And it's going to take you out of that physical and make you go inside.
Okay, so your retrograde is in Cancer.
It's in, yeah, Uranus is my planet. The planet,
Your planet Uranus was in retrograde.
right, when I was born.
So the energy dealing with Uranus and Cancer would mean that it's
And
going to be dealing with like your nature part, the mother.
Right. See, my nurture, my home,
Okay.
my family, and which is exactly what happens. See, Uranus, remember, is the rebellious energy. It's rebellion. And this is opposite, what? My son.
Right.
You know? So what it's saying is, and this is in my house of the home. Okay? So what it's saying is somewhere, you know, I'm going to break away. You know, I'm going to rebel when it comes to my home, you know, and move out and, you know, come more in, which happened because, you know, I left my home, you know, Omaha, Nebraska, and just came here, just and started all over. So I left, I made that change. I rebelled from my home and moved away. See, that's what it indicates. And there was a significant reason for me to do that. It was a significant reason for me, you know, to end up here in Atlanta, you know, and teaching. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, because it all connecting those two opposites. One's the public, one's the home. See. So, and okay, Mercury, and then after that is Venus. And my Venus is also in Sagittarius, but it fell into my 8th house. Okay? But it's in Sagittarius. Okay? Okay, don't forget, you guys, I told you now. It's all this. Maybe what I should have did was, see,
no, you got Sagittarius up there twice.
I know.
Oh, okay.
What I'm doing now.
Question.
13 degrees. 20 degrees. See, each cups, you know, this here is 15 degrees. This is 6 degrees. This here is 28 degrees. And see, this is also 28 degrees. This here is, and then you'll start seeing, these are going to repeat. Opposites are going to be the same. 13, yeah, see, yeah. This here, yeah, what is it, 20?
15
28.
and 28.
Those are opposites. Okay? Now, what I mean by that, why that happened is, what I'm saying here, my rising sign, okay, that started 13 degrees in Aries. It runs 30 degrees. Somewhere here, this ran up to 30 degrees. It changed over into the sign of Gemini while it was still in my first house. Does that make sense? Do you get me? Huh?
Wait, say what?
Yeah. Maybe I should use a planet. It would be easier if I use a planet here. Okay. Uranus is 11 degrees in Cancer in my 4th house. Okay? Now, what's going to happen is that Cancer, Uranus is going to click 12 degrees, 13 degrees, 14 degrees, 15. Matter of fact, it was at 28 degrees when it crossed over this line. It was still at 28 degrees. It hadn't quite ran out its, it hadn't quite ran out its 30 degrees. So that means it crossed over into another house.
Right. You still had a little Cancer in that 5th house. That's what you're saying. You still had a little Cancer in the going in the 5th house.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Right.
For 2 degrees.
For 2 degrees. But because it was, Cancer was on this line, that still means Cancer is more in control of this 5th house too. So that means Cancer is actually in control of 2 houses. And I lose my Aries energy, my Leo energy is what you call, we don't want to get too technical, but it's intercepted. That means it's buried. You know, because then I get, my Leo is here. And then it's my Virgo that gets buried. My Virgo gets buried. Okay? And it's what you call intercepted. It gets buried because the Leo started here, and then Libra will start somewhere in here. That means that my Virgo is somewhere buried in between those two energies. Yes.
Okay, so each sign doesn't necessarily have 30 degrees, it's just the houses have 30 degrees.
No, they both
Have
do.
30 degrees.
But I started at 13. Okay.
I mean, but how can one sign get stuck in a house that only has 30 degrees? If it's 30 degrees too, when it overlaps somewhere?
The houses are I don't know how to explain that, but the houses are of different sizes. And please don't try to get me to explain that when, you know, we're getting a lot more technical than my non-detailed mind is going to take you, but it is possible for a sign to be integrated within the two, and it has more to do with the size of the houses, you know, and everything, so, but that can happen.
But we'll be able to figure all this out from the notebook, right?
Yeah.
As we go.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause I'm kind of like,
I'm trying to follow on this.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like,
Maybe
okay.
the degrees is not something,
yeah, I mean,
you wanna get into that right now?
Well, no, I mean, I'm just trying to give you, you know, I think you
That's where
guys,
the cups will come in at?
yeah, that's why I tried to explain the cups and everything, but I think you guys are trying to get a little more
Right.
technical than you really need to. You know, it's not like you're gonna be actually drawing up, you know, calculating charts here. Take my word for it, okay? 30 degrees for each sign, 30 degrees for each house, okay? Okay? So yes, there can be overlap, and there can be intercepted houses.